every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on The Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border,
okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us for the last. Hey, thanks, Sacco. Nailing it back there. Cheeseburger and everything. He just can't. 3, 2, 1, go.
Sacco was legitimate. He legitimately went to McDonald's and got hamburgers.
He did. Here's the best part. Sacco yelled 3, 2, 1, go the first time ever since we've been on the air. He's actually notified us we're coming back from break.
But he did it late. Which is the problem.
No, what happened was
Sacco, nobody can hear you. You don't have a microphone. So, continuing with our rant about federal investigations, there is a news organization, this libertarian website called Reason.
Love French fries.
And the Department of Justice, gotta love them, is trying to get information on 6 readers who they say made threatening comments about a judge in response to an online article, which now obviously there's huge debate about whether this is a free speech issue, whether these federal prosecutors can try and issue grand jury subpoenas and all these other things. Basically, they got a subpoena which is commanding the site Reason to give the grand jury any and all identifying information about participants in what the subpoena calls "quote unquote" chat. The publishers say no, we're not giving up that information. You're wasting our time. This is a First Amendment issues, and what they're saying is no, this is a threat against a federal judge. And here's what happened: there was a judge, Catherine Forrest, from Ulbricht, who was convicted of running an online drug trafficking site named Silk Road.
Yes, I remember that. And
Ulbricht took responsibility for this site. And the judge ended up sentencing Ulbricht to life in prison, which is a longer penalty than the prosecution requested. Okay, whatever. I don't know all the specific facts of that case and whatnot. But one of the commenters said, quote, "It's judges like these that should be taken out back and shot." And another one then said, "Why waste the ammunition? Wood chippers get the message across clearly, especially if you feed them in feet first." Which is a true statement.
That statement itself,
I don't necessarily agree
with it for a federal judge, no.
Right.
But that
it does
statement
get
is
a point
accurate.
across
It
to
does get a point
somebody.
across, yes.
Right. So somebody's saying, hey, these aren't really threats. These are people online just kind of ranting. Now, here's the thing. There was a Supreme Court judge, or a Supreme Court case where there was a conviction turned down basically for threats, and the court said that there has to be 3 things present in order for the federal government to prosecute speech. The first thing that has to be present is that there has to be an apparent ability to carry out whatever threat that's made.
Right.
There has to be a likelihood of success, and there also has to be, the words have to show the intention to carry out the threat. So you have to show those 3 things in order to prosecute.
All of those would involve a plan. Specifics.
Now, in what we read, is there anything
It doesn't sound like
in there that would meet those definitions?
No, these guys are kind of zipper heads.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're just ranting. They're angry and they're ranting.
Oh, they're idiots.
Right.
I grew up in a different place.
So, I mean, these guys are obviously knuckleheads, but the DOJ is trying to prosecute this as speech.
I can
look. There's a good article. If you want to read an article on this, it's a good article. One that we used for our research. DOJ stirs free speech fight after demanding libertarian site turnover info.
This
on,
is so
on commenters.
hard.
You can find it at foxnews.com.
Well, I don't think this should be something that we start doing this blanket approach with people that pop off at understand saying we should probably find out if there's any seriousness involved in this or if these guys are just airheads. Okay. So you go in, and if you really feel that you must conduct this investigation, and I'm not saying they're to that point with the information that's here, but let's say one thing in there was specific enough. One of these morons put, hey, you know what, Judge so-and-so, I know you work here, and I'm coming for you. Okay. You can still get a warrant or a subpoena for that specific comment's IP information and get that specific
Interesting point.
person.
Why not write a warrant and get a warrant for it?
Right.
Why go the subpoena route?
Right. Four, 5, 6, 2 at this date, this time. I need the IP address because we're investigating.
And a judge signed the search warrant.
Right.
It's not just a grand jury subpoena.
Right. Because there was enough specificity that we just want to look into it. Okay. You now have a warrant. The company's obligated,
Right.
A. But B, it's only for that one specific thing. And you can go with the forensic, whatever they call, computer technician. You can sit down and have them pull that specific chat information for that specific person and print one piece of paper and meet the qualifications of that warrant. So you are not in violation and the investigators get what they need. I don't think that's the case here. I don't feel, and again, this is just my dumb judgment on this, but it doesn't sound like any of these guys did anything more than spout off at the mouth and make a couple semi-cruel jokes. And at the end of the day, we've been accused of that in the past, that some of the things we've said have been hurtful and mean and blah, 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 blah. So I'm not going to jump all over these guys. I will jump all over the DOJ for issuing a grand jury subpoena for their entire set of records.
For all of you at the DOJ, Sean did not mean that in a threatening way. He did not mean he is going to physically jump all over you. He meant it in a non-literal sense.
I could fit around the building. I'm just saying.
Right. No,
I'm big enough.
He meant that in a non-literal sense,
Of
almost
course.
like in a he's going to get on over you, like verbally talk bad about you. So that's just for clarification.
And we've all tried
Right,
to...
Sean?
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
agree. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Yeah, if you
but
didn't
the other
agree
thing,
with that-
too, that the Internet kind of creates is, you know, people always try to get that, what used to be a soundbite like on the radio and the news. people try to get that in the internet world now through comments and being the top comment and making people laugh and ha 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 ha. You know, there's a great song. I forget who wrote it, but it's essentially like, I'm huge on the internet. It's like people that have no lives, but they sit in front of the computer, kind of like us. And it's really funny, but the reality of the situation is people go for the reaction. You see it on Twitter, you see it on Facebook, you see it all over social media. And I think, again, I don't know a lot of information about this case, but I think that's where these two knuckleheads were going, or three knuckleheads of four, whatever. But I think this lacks what the Supreme Court has decided in a threat case to warrant further investigation. I don't believe, now there could be a special caveat for federal judges buried somewhere in some special little U.S. code, there's a blah, 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 I don't know. But based on the information that I am seeing now, I do not believe that the government's case amounts to enough to, which is why they didn't get a warrant in my opinion, to go in and get their entire subscription list. You don't need their entire list.
No, I don't. I think this is just.
It's a witch hunt, in my opinion.
I think it is.
And you know what? For conservatives and libertarians, you have to excuse us if we're a little bit concerned about things like this, based on what the IRS has done, based on what we've seen people do to conservative groups in this country and websites and whatnot. I mean, who's the guy, Chuck, right now, who Twitter has shut out because he's made a couple of statements. And, you know, Twitter's a private business, and I get that. But at the end of the day, some statements don't amount to threats. And I don't believe these statements do. And I think that the feds are overreaching on this. I think they're wasting too much time on this and effort at this point.
Have you seen the Southern Baptist church leaders? They came out and said the Southern Baptist Convention, Ronnie Floyd, who's the elected leader of the Southern Baptist Convention, he has come out and said that the Supreme Court of the United States is not the final authority, nor is the culture itself in terms of same-sex marriage. He says, quote, "The Bible is God's." This is not an issue of whether you agree or disagree with same-sex marriage. This is an issue of a religious group. The entire Southern Baptist Convention is standing up saying, hey, United States Supreme Court, we don't care what you rule. United States, because I don't remember it, where an entire
congregation or group or
an entire religion, the Southern Baptist Convention, a group that large, has called out the United States government, specifically the United States Supreme Court, where they have said, yeah, we don't care what you say, law of the land or not. This is our law, and you have zero say over it, and we are not going to do what you say. So if the U.S. Supreme Court comes out and says, oh, yeah, no, churches shall perform same-sex marriages, and it's the law of the land, and you have to do it because you can't discriminate, the Southern Baptist Convention is saying, nah, no, we're going to do it anyways, which shapes up for an interesting fight. Because let's say the U.S. Supreme Court says that, and I don't know how they're going to rule. You don't know how they're going to rule, but let's say they rule that way. Now you have the Southern Baptist Convention, which is saying, nope, we're not going to perform those. And there's a lawsuit. And the U.S. Supreme Court's already ruled on it. And the Southern Baptist Convention, because the Supreme Court has ruled on it, would lose that lawsuit. And they say, nope, we're not going to pay.
What are you going to do?
Nope, we're not going to marry them.
You're going to revoke their 504c status? You're going to shut them down? You're going to?
What are you going to do?
You're going to attack the church? And
you're going to stand outside our doors and prevent us from preaching? What are you going to do?
Well, and what's going to happen when somebody marches into a mosque and says, hey, I demand you guys perform a gay wedding? They say, no, it's against our religion if you try to do this again.
Same-sex wedding, because weddings are gay by right. Like, right. They're happy events. They're gay events.
They are gay events, you're right.
We took it back to hate, Sean.
We took it back. Religion here. You will have groups, and listen, I've talked to enough people in the gay community who will tell you that most people, if a church doesn't perform gay weddings, they don't want to go. And there's only a small caveat and a small group of people who are trying to prove a point and make money by challenging these religious entities and trying to force them to do certain things. But that being said, it's only going to take one to make a precedence. And then once you have the government tell you you have to change your religion completely to meet a government mandate, well, that takes away the separation of church and state a little bit, doesn't it? Because you now have the government discussing what your religion can be and enforcing you to do certain things within that religion.
I think it's funny how on one hand the left likes to argue separation of church and state, but then on this case they're trying to force the church to do what the state wants.
Right, and force the state to rule against the church.
Right.
And
look, nowhere in the Constitution is there separation of church and state. And I want to make something very clear. I don't care what people do in their own bedrooms. If there's a church that wants to perform a same-sex wedding, have at it. I may not have that belief system. You may not have that belief system, but it doesn't matter. It's not for us to say what somebody else's religion is either. If there is a religion that says, you know what, we read the Word of God and we believe that a marriage is a union between two people and that this is sanctified. If they believe that and they perform same-sex marriages with two consenting adults, that's on them. I don't have to go to that church. I have that choice. Right? I don't have to attend that church. But what happens in their bedroom is not for me
or anyone else.
Or anyone else to say, nor is it for the federal government going to follow this and honor it, then that's their right.
Yes.
As that is their right as a religious organization, as a religious group. So I'm a little disappointed that the Supreme Court is hearing this case. And because it is such, I would love for the Supreme Court to come back and say, this is not a government issue.
Yeah.
The government is not to rule on same-sex marriage.
Get the hell out.
It's up to the individual churches, and all same-sex marriage laws, one way or the other in the United States, are null and void. It's up to the individual churches to decide, and if the churches decide that that is a marriage, it is up to the state to recognize that, because it's not for the state to say that a particular religion is right or wrong.
Right. Well, and the problem is, and we talk, this kind of falls under the same thing we talk about when the limitation of the First and Second Amendment, and how once they start chipping away at an amendment, how far they can go with it and destroy it. And we see it with the Second Amendment all the time. Look at the destruction the Second Amendment has taken. And you start getting into the freedom of religion part of the First. And really, once they get the foot into the pulpit, if you will, once they step onto that altar, once that federal government is in there saying what you can and can't do, where does it end? Where does it end? And I don't know what the answer is, but I'll tell you right now, I don't want to find out. It's a scary precedence. And this is just, what the funny part is a majority of the churches that have been attacked have been Christian. And I don't mean physically attacked, but legally attacked. You know what I mean? And on the flip side of that, somebody said, well, why don't they just get a gay church? They're out there. There are churches that absolutely welcome.
There are Christian churches out there that absolutely welcome same-sex marriage, that think it's... And that's fine.
And that's a fight that the churches can have within themselves, whether or not they're following the Bible or not. That's not for anyone else to get involved with. It's the same kind of... The federal government cannot decide that.
Exactly. Now, you can, if you want to weigh in as an individual and have the theological debate, that's fine.
That's your right. That's your entity.
Have that, right? Don't go to one church that engages in activities you disagree with, whether they don't have same-sex marriages or whether they do.
Like, I don't go to... I do not, and nor will I, go to a church that promotes social justice.
Right.
It's the same thing. And
I will not go to a church that promotes Muslim extremism.
Right. Well, it's one of those things that I just don't do.
I just don't do it. I won't go to a mosque.
You know what? I'd go to a mosque, but not for services.
I wouldn't worship at a mosque.
Right. I wouldn't worship at a mosque. And I know there's some. It's a building to me. Mm-hmm. You know, just like anything else.
I would respect that building out of respect for, just like I respect
cemeteries of all different faiths. Right.
Right.
Just because I don't agree with it.
I'm not going to go in and run around willy-nilly and, I'm
not doing cartwheels.
Right, yeah. I'm not going to go be disrespectful in a place like that.
Right.
I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't expect somebody to come into my church and conduct themselves that way.
Right, and if I felt that somebody was... If I felt that I was going to have to do that, if I felt that if I was going to walk into somebody else's faith and it was going to bother me so much that I would not be able to control myself, then I just wouldn't go. Need to walk into a place to do that specifically. I already do it.
You do it every day. Right, I demand you make me a wedding cake for my ceremony. Oh wait, that's a different issue.
Because as much as you demand, I respect your right to do what you want to do.
Respect ours.
I demand the same in return. And until it's not met, I'm going to be angry. And I'm going to fight you on it. And it will be based on principle. And it won't even be based on whether or not I care who marries who. What it is you're creating a problem. You have a problem with my place of worship. And you're trying to create a bigger issue out of it. You're trying to exploit this place of worship for your personal gain. And I won't have it. But I'm also the same person growing up Catholic. Every Catholic priest that was convicted or alleged to have been pedophiles that were moved out of the country to avoid prosecution, etc., I had a serious issue with that, and I had voiced that in the past. Mm-hmm. At the point when they cross the line from being a pastor or a priest to a pedophile, they are no longer the pastor or the priest. They are a criminal. And they need to go to jail for just as long as everybody else. But I don't, as much as I'm mad at certain parts of the church that manage that, I don't sit here and talk about how Catholic churches are hell and, evil, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not reality. It was a couple bad apples that perpetrated and a couple bad apples that made it impossible to prosecute. So, there needs to be, the problem is there's no respect one way or the other. There's no respect by certain people in this country for certain individual beliefs. It's like atheists get mad about Christian things. Oh, you have the Christmas sign.
Have to be tolerant
exactly.
Of yours.
And that's where the problem lies.
Yep, exactly. Oh, what a show.
We went quick. We went hot and heavy on this one.
It did seem, and we had some positive stories tonight.
We had a few uplifting ones. I swear to God, I heard Highway to the Danger Zone playing all night. It was almost like
weird, right? We were in the zone.
Right. It was
just bizarre.
You were on the motorcycle and doing the pumping of the fist, and
you were on the back holding on to me with your hair flowing.
Right. We were playing volleyball earlier. It was a great night.
It was a great night.
Saka
was waiting at home for us with dinner made.
I have a couple special thanks I want to throw out this week. Thank you to McDonald's for making your fries so yummy.
And for hiring Gibbs.
Yep. It's so nice to see him back to work.
Yep.
The poor guy was suffering. I mean, he was barely getting by. And fortunately, McDonald's came through and hired another minimum wage worker at $15 billion a year, or whatever the hell he's going to make. Congratulations to Al Gore for being the head driller for ExxonMobil. I'm very, very proud of you, Al.
That was a spoof. Yeah, no, that didn't really happen.
Oh, well, this got awkward. Congratulations on Al Gore for flying everywhere in your private jet, burning jet fuel all over the place. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you to Sacco for getting us food tonight. I much appreciated that.
Sacco.
Not much for sound this evening, but the food was there, so I appreciated that. You hold on. Wait, what? Whoa, wait. First, sorry, the one sound effect. You want credit for? Okay. Wait, you get another one? What do you got for us, Sacco? Well, you've had that one. Get a new one every week and impress us with it. That's your new goal.
All right.
I want to thank.
Every top of the hour.
Top of the hour. There you go. Check us out every single week here on the Sackheads Radio Show at 8 Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Check me out tomorrow morning at 12 in the East, 9 in the West on WNJC, 1360 AM for the Edge of Liberty. Make sure you check out all of our social media. There's so much to list with social media. Planet Hollywood for Freedom Fest 2015. Come and see some of the freest minds discussing the ways to grow capitalism in this country. It is an event you do not want to miss. Freedom Fest 2015's join SHR Media as we will be on Radio Row. Special thanks to the newest monster truck, Big Sandal, for chiming in this week. That was huge. I appreciate it. I hope that guy does good in the circuit.
The best late night.
We'll see you next week. Take care, folks.
On the air to give you the best in conservative talk, the Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Radio.
America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.